What's up, everybody? I go by the name of Domo.
And I go by the name of Yoshiko.
We sit with entrepreneurs and artists across disciplines to share their stories, insight, and gems. Their journey will inspire you to think about community and your own narrative, how it shapes who you are, and what your legacy will be.
You're listening to No Blueprint.
No Blueprint.
To No Blueprint.
No Blueprint.
You are listening to No Blueprint.
Hi, I'm Chera Amlag. I am the co-owner of Hood Famous Bakeshop.
Hi, this is Geo Quibuyen, aka Prometheus Brown, and I ride shotgun with Hood Famous Bakeshop.
Awesome. If y'all had a biography, what would the title be? Plot twist. It's a bio/documentary about both of y'all.
Both of us?
A joint.
And I've listened to the podcast, so I should have known this was coming, and I should have rehearsed, and we should have talked about this before.
We should have. Oh, we were in the car all day today too. Let's see.
Let's see if we could. What kind of different responses on the fly?
Well, we let's see. We were born at the same time in the universe, right? Within a few hours of each other.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
So.
Oh.
And then.
So you guys have joint birthday parties?
Yeah. Nice. So I was born on February 19th. She was born in 1980, but I was born in California.
No, you're the 19th. I'm 20th.
Yeah,
February.
sorry. Yeah, I'm on the 19th. She's on the 20th.
But
both
you were in
1980. Cali. I was in Cali. She was born in the Philippines. So accounting for the time difference, we were born like 4 hours apart.
Are you?
Oh wow.
Pisces, but he's more of a cusp. Yeah, Aries.
Yeah. I think you're the first full day of Pisces, and I'm like on the cusp. Be some kind of variation of everything that we've done together, from food and shit to Hood Famous to, I don't know, maybe we can make like a portmanteau out of all this. Food famous and shit and music and love, and now it's just becoming a hot mess. But that's cool. That's reflective of what our lives.
Food famous, shit and love.
Yeah, food famous, music, shit and love.
There you go.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Listen, we can't wait. We're speaking this into existence because you know it'll happen.
Starring Ernie Reyes Jr. and Tamlin Tomita.
That's amazing. Done. You are only the second person to know who would play y'all.
Who was the other one?
Priya.
Oh yeah,
Priya. Yes.
Really Singh.
Yes.
That was a good one.
Yes.
I have a follow-up question.
Yeah.
Background music to the scene.
Oh.
That was a good question.
It has to have Madonna.
Yeah. It'd be
preferably Lucky Star.
Okay.
And maybe some Borderline.
And what would the opening scene be?
Maybe Madonna's Lucky Star is playing in the background, and then it's like us meeting, but then it like backtracks to our childhood, because we were both in the Philippines at the same time when you were.
Oh yeah, it would be.
How old?
Well, when you were living there, this was 1984.
So we were both 4 years old.
And I had family in Olongapo City, so we were visiting my auntie when I was 4 years old. Small world was that her grandma knew my dad's oldest sister because she managed a restaurant in Olongapo. And then when
I grew up,
when we started dating, we were just sitting with our families asking where your family from, who knew what, and it turned out like our family members had crossed paths before we even met.
That's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
So maybe that it may or may not have actually happened, but it would be these two kids, one from America, one from the Philippines, who cross each other's path at this restaurant, not knowing that they would end up together halfway across the world.
That's crazy.
I like it.
Yes.
To Madonna.
Madonna.
Which would be playing from the restaurant's music speakers.
Yes.
Absolutely.
In
Perfect.
1984.
That's exactly why. Yeah.
Yes.
That's dope.
There
That's
you go.
dope.
That's good.
Yes, that was
That's
great.
not bad.
That was great. Describe a day in the kitchen growing up when someone was cooking? Who was cooking? What were they cooking? What did it smell like? Were you helping?
I had a job. So my job was to always peel the garlic and, the mortar and pestle, like basically crush it up. Because a lot of the dishes that my mom mainly was the cook. And then my dad would cook his like special dishes, but then my mom is usually the one that was cooking. But my job was to always do garlic. And it was always like the garlic, onion. That was like the first thing that went in the pan with a little bit of oil.
So you got all the strong stuff.
Yeah.
Did you have siblings?
I do. So I am the eldest of 4.
Okay, so they let the eldest be the one to
Yeah.
Always.
to the tears. Yes.
Yeah, the youngest doesn't do nothing.
Right. Right. And any grandparents around?
Yeah, my grandma lived with us since I was about 10, and she passed away when I was in my early 20s. And so I grew up with 3 generations in the household. Yeah.
Wow. So was your grandmother the one to pass down recipes? Did she cook?
We called her Nanay, and I don't remember her cooking very much, but she was always on top of the health stuff.
Okay.
Like she was doing fish oil before it was,
Before it was popping.
Before it was
Nice.
popping, and
Nice.
she actually owned her own business in the Philippines.
So entrepreneurship.
Yeah, so
That's what's up.
she was a fierce lady.
What did she do?
Yeah, what kind of business?
When in the Philippines, because we were so close to the base, she would just hustled. So she would like buy and sell.
Nice.
Like buy things like that she could get at the base and then sell it outside the base. She was flipping. Yeah, she was definitely a flipper.
That's it.
But yeah, she was just like audacious and like fearless. And I remember one time I got my driver's license, and my parents made me go down to like the local like Chinese restaurant down the road to get the soup. And my grandmother put a pot in my hand, and she's like, just have them put the soup in this pot. And I'm the 16-year-old. I'm like, no, like I'm not gonna go down to this Chinese restaurant. They're gonna think I'm crazy with this pot. And they're like, why not? And so I went, and like I asked them, and it was just those little things that I think when you're young and you see your grandma, your mom just be like, why even worry about what other people think? Right? And like just go for it. Like it's not hurting anybody. And so I think her living with us, there's so many stories like that of her just being a badass, female, and that trickled down to like my mom, and my mom is very strong.
Passing down the hustle. I love that. I love that. All right, Geo, we're in the kitchen. What does it look like? What are you doing? What is your role?
I'm hanging out, being impatient, asking when the food's gonna be done. I was a heavier set kid. I've struggled with the body image my whole life, and part of it is due to my inability to regulate how much I eat when I love something, and I think my parents recognize that, and being immigrants from the countryside in the Philippines, for them it was new. They grew up eating probably like nothing but a dish that was 90% rice with a little bit of vegetables and barely any meat. Meat was a special occasion thing. But then you get to America, and it's a struggle for a little bit, but once you got your foot down and things stabilize a little bit, it's almost like every day is a celebration.
Yes.
You start having like steak every day and pork belly every day and things like that. The foods that used to be the special occasion foods become like the staples, which I didn't know, growing up. So we had a bunch of that. Early on, a lot of pork belly, sinigang, adobo was always a staple. Nice. Not so much on like lumpia and pancit. That was like the party foods. But adobo was the first thing that I learned how to cook just by watching and asking questions. Mom and Pop didn't really show me. It was more just like, you know, I mean, I guess they would show just out because I was curious. And at one point they started having me actually make it now and then. Rice, definitely like preparing rice using the finger method, measuring the rice.
Yes. Rice cooker or pot?
Rice cooker. Actually, early on it was a pot early on.
See, that's why I asked. That's why I
But I'm the only one in my family that remembers that. Like, if you ask any of my 3 younger sisters, they have no memories of eating rice out of a stovetop pot. I do.
They're like, we always had a rice cooker.
Yeah, and then it was rice cooker, and then from then on, it was like a no-brainer. It was rice cooker all the time. My pops did the majority of the cooking.
Okay.
And my mom, similar to the dynamic Chera and I have in our family, my dad did a lot of the savory cooking, the stews, the meats. And then when my moms did cook, it was desserts. It was puto cachenta, and then she had a side hustle where she made it for parties like all the time, and I think word got out beyond just like our immediate circle of aunties and uncles, and she would make it for every weekend as far back as I can remember, and even all the way up into my teens when we moved to Bremerton, but definitely in Hawaii, making Filipino party desserts, and then slanging them to different Filipino families who would buy them for their parties. And then even when I started driving, like at that point I became the delivery person for some of these things.
Yes.
But I never learned how to do that. I think so mom's was definitely more of the kind of like Chera, like patient, actually measuring the ingredients, measuring the time, temperatures, things like that, which you gotta do for you to do like baking or desserts. And my pops was always like trying new things out. He was always like, sometimes be like too salty, underseasoned, overseasoned. A lot of funk. Both my parents are Ilocano, so they were heavy on, beyond just the shrimp paste bagoong that most folks familiar with Filipino food know about. They made their own bagoong. They would like take all types of fish and just like let it rot in jars in the garage. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And
It's like a fine wine.
Right? Okay.
The older the better.
They still
the more
have
pungent the better.
They still have unopened jars of fish that have just been breaking down in its own bacteria since like the early 90s, that they'll crack open and be like, oh, I remember this.
This is that good stuff.
Like, it brings back the memories of when, like, when Jordan was still playing ball.
Nice.
But yeah, all those experiences so that was the Filipino side of things. Just like Chera, we didn't go out much to eat except for fast food and buffets. And then I think as time went on, moms and pops started cooking more and more American food to please their children's American palates, and we're like, oh, we're having adobo again. We want pizza. We want burgers. So I think they at first would try to make their own version of it, and we were like, this sucks. So unfortunately, it started becoming more and more Americanized as time went on.
Did you have grandparents around?
I had my dad's mom, my grandma on my dad's side, lived with us when I was really young, and then she went back to the Philippines. I think she missed it. And then my mom's mom lived with us from probably like same thing, like most of my life up until my early 20s when she passed. Okay.
Did she cook at all?
Yeah, she did, but she cooked like maybe 3 or 4 dishes over and over and over and over again. She was not
taking requests.
Yeah, not at all.
Her go-to.
Definitely, and it was always, in those 3 or 4 dishes were pretty much variations of one dish.
Okay.
Like in Ilocano, there's like dinengdeng, which is just a straight up vegetable stew, almost unflavored or flavored, the flavors from the vegetables themselves. Or it'd be that with maybe some shrimp, or then that like a drier version sauteed with some shrimp paste, and that's called pinakbet. But it was always like 90% a bunch of vegetables cooked together kind of thing.
All right, keeping it healthy.
Yeah, she was all about that.
That's what's up. Tell me about high school. Y'all went to high school together?
Yeah, we dated the entire time in high school.
Tell me about high school.
On and off. Mostly on.
We took the summers off.
Okay.
So she would go to the Philippines or Australia, and
So you gonna leave all summer?
yeah, pretty much. We didn't hang out in the summer, and that trend continued even well into college, and then into adulthood when I would go on tour in the summer as a musician. So we just don't hang out in the summer.
Yeah.
It's something we don't do.
We just didn't like it.
Right.
Each other in the summer.
But no, we went to Olympic High School
Okay.
in Bremerton.
Yeah, let's see. So we met in middle school, and then he went to a different middle school. So like high school at Olympic was like the first time we both got to go to the same school. And it was interesting. Like I had my crew, he had his.
What type of students were y'all?
Okay, so Geo, he used to hang out with this crew called Barkada, and it was a bunch of like Filipino guys, but then he was
And girls.
but mainly dudes, and but he was really a nerd inside. Okay, and so he joined like drama club, but you know there's never like an Asian male role right back then. So you did.
I was stage manager.
You stage managed, and what were the competitions called?
Quiz Bowl.
Quiz Bowl. He traveled with the school team to go to Quiz Bowl.
Oh yeah.
For
This
drama?
guy, no. So this was like he was in drama, right? And then he joined the Quiz Bowl club.
Quiz
What is she's trying to make it sound as corny as possible. So wait, was Quiz Bowl like a
trivia.
Like trivia?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, trivia.
And
So
he traveled with the trivia team.
He traveled with the trivia team.
Yeah, we won.
Note to
We
self.
won things, man.
Note
we
to
had to
self.
go, and
And I got better grades than him, but he was always, actually smarter.
He had the
like,
random facts on.
He had all the
lock.
random facts,
Got
and
it.
we did a history project together, and it was like kind of his brainchild. We did a history project on Sacco and Vanzetti, right? And then we almost what did we do? It was like all this close to going to either regionals or nationals, but there was
came in
like
third place.
Yeah.
First and second went to Washington D.C.
Yes.
for History Day.
we could have traveled together
was
to
the-
Washington D.C.
What
in
was
high
the
school.
first and second prize winners?
What did they do?
I don't know,
They were lame.
Some
Okay.
shit where their parents probably helped them out.
I was trying to see how petty they were if they were.
But yeah, so Geo was definitely like, I think that guy, very multidimensional
Yeah.
and super smart. He was writing poetry
Yeah.
back then. But yeah, I mean, I think that was so interesting.
Yeah.
Like I was like, I don't meet any other dudes like this. Like he's so like there's so many dimensions, and we met on the phone, and he was like playing Jeopardy and like answering all the questions right. And I was like, who is this guy? Anyway,
Right, yeah.
what else about you?
No, he was gonna air 15-year-old me all out to the internet.
Yeah.
That's what's
No,
up.
that's accurate.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Right.
and
What
accurate.
else? What else did I? There's so much more, but
Yeah.
multidimensional.
Okay.
Sometimes misunderstood.
Okay.
Sometimes there's a high school Chera that I thought I knew on the surface. I mean, this is how we met. I was dating her friend, so I wasn't thinking of her in that way. And the paths that we did cross in this small community was mostly a church, where she was in the choir. She was singing in the choir and a Catholic Sunday school teacher for kindergartners.
She was a Catholic Sunday school teacher?
It was called
Okay.
CCD.
Yeah, CCD.
Okay.
I actually taught Geo's youngest sister
Yeah, Janelle
Sunday school.
was-
Janelle, who is now our creative director for Hood Famous Bakeshop.
Shout out to Janelle.
Yes.
Shout out to Janelle.
True
She
story.
was in kindergarten.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy.
That is great.
But that's who Chera was. Like, and I say this with so much love, like a super square bear. Just real wholesome.
Oh my god.
Just real nice girl.
Yeah.
Who I've come to find out like had a little bit of a mean streak underneath that, because very shortly after we started talking, after I broke up with her homegirl, I remember this was like this district dance where Chera, the mostly quietest girl out of her crew,
Yeah.
was the one that like stepped up to try to fight this white girl at this dance who was talking
man.
shit. And I remember at that moment I was like, yo, that's the one.
That's the one.
The one that seems like she's like on the surface just is like, I mean, and is genuinely just like sweet, nice and everything, but don't test her.
Yes.
And so I think that translated as well with everything you did in school. Like you said, you did hella well academically.
That's right.
Played sports.
What sports?
Soccer.
Okay.
You did softball too, or fast pitch.
Fast pitch.
Nice.
Track.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you try out for cheerleading?
No, I couldn't. My mom told me I
Oh
couldn't.
yeah, your mom. Yeah.
Because she said it was too expensive.
Okay. All right.
And also very active in both community and on campus. So on and off campus, like very involved in like from student council, student government, to what were you doing? You were always doing some like volunteering type stuff. It's been so long ago. Like she would go to other schools to do things.
Okay.
Like who
I thought
does
I
that?
wanted to be a teacher, so I went and I taught art to second graders.
Yeah.
What? In high school?
Yeah.
Wow. And teaching Sunday school at the same time?
Oh my god, are you just making me
See?
sound like such a square?
Wow.
But for real, yeah, yeah. And then she sneak out on Friday nights, have her 9:00 curfew to go hang out with the bad kids.
Right.
Sorry,
All right,
sorry,
not,
mom.
not telling my mom to listen to that.
Right.
Yeah, I think hearing Chera describe me, and then I'm saying all these things out loud that I don't think. It's not like we sit around describing ourselves
All
or
day.
each other to each other, but it makes sense now, all these years later.
Did y'all both go straight from high school to UW?
Yeah, I think it was one of those. I wasn't even thinking about any other schools. And so I thought it was either going to be like UW or Western, and just applied to like the state schools.
I'm going to try to paraphrase this because Geologic the Rapper is its own separate podcast. that could go so many directions. You meet Sabzi at UW.
Mm-hmm. Part of the student hip hop organization in Washington, the show.
Yes.
Shout out the show.
Yes.
It was a ragtag bunch of students who try to fill the void of there not being a presence of. There were hip hop heads on campus, fans, and some of us knew each other from going to shows off campus. The few all ages shows that were happening, but we try to fill the void on campus. And it was like we were there early on, but it was really like this core group that included this dude, Mark, the homie Mark Matsui, who wrote for the Daily, who made a call out saying like any hip hop heads want to meet up, let's figure something out, let's try to get a presence on campus, which then snowballed into doing shows that included.
And he was like the Blue Scholar first manager.
And a couple years down the line. Well, throughout, like people came through that organization and ended up doing all types of different things that for years after we left campus, were fruitful relationships. We learned a lot behind the scenes of just being promoters, being in the scene, meeting other cats in the scene who've been doing it for a while, seeing how it runs on a business end, and then actually meeting artists that we look up to. So that was the birthplace right there.
Fast forward, you worked at Mesa. How did that experience inspire y'all in what y'all do now?
With Mesa and like working with the youth?
Yeah.
I think when you support students and are constantly telling them to pursue their passions and to take risks and to understand that, you know, anything worth doing is going to be challenging and uncomfortable. And being the first one in your family as first generation college students, you're going to have to trailblaze a little bit, and that path isn't going to be as smooth as it will be maybe for your siblings or folks that, you know, come after you've done a little bit of work. I just remember just feeling like my students were really supportive of the transition. Like I said earlier, it was a really, really hard choice because we have 2 kids and try to be responsible parents and to try to have both of us be self-employed, living that kind of, you know, the instability of not having a 9 to 5, because I was always that. You know, for most of it, where okay, I got the state, you know, the state benefits, and you know, we knew that a regular salary was gonna come. Some months were really great, some months were all right. You know, some months were a little bit more challenging, but I think it was my mom, you know, who said, "Why not?" Like, I think when she said, you know, like, do this, like, you don't let this be something that you'll regret. And then she got sick during the time when we were doing food and shit pop-ups. And so I think when, you know, you're faced with a family member who has cancer, and you're kind of like faced with your own, it's natural, I think, to think about your own mortality, right? And so it was that all of that together that I think made me really think about, what am I doing? Am I doing what I love? Am I living the life that I'm trying to tell my students, right, to live, as far as like following their dreams and their passions? And then I think just realizing that starting Food and Shit was like the most fun that I've had in a really long time, you know, as a couple in our relationship. And so all of that, I think, helped inspire me to make the decision to like quit my job.
Nice. So 2013, y'all have your 10-year anniversary, and you decide to do a dinner for friends and family.
Chera decided, and then she convinced me to do most of the work.
Okay. Whose idea was to call it Food and Shit?
That was me.
It was his. It was a place marker on the computer for the menu.
Yeah, for the name of just the menu. Not, I mean, there was no pop-up. It was it was a one-time thing. Yeah. And
nice.
Yeah, I tried to be clever with the name of the menu. Couldn't think of something. Had a placeholder name. I was like, there was no Food and Shit. It was Gumbo and Shit. Okay. That was the name of the menu. Okay. And so when we sent it out,
because we were serving gumbo.
Yeah, when we sent it out to family and friends, that's just pretty much what and also because it was a course menu, and I only knew that I was gonna make gumbo.
I remember that.
I didn't figure out what else was gonna be on the menu. So for the time being, if we were already starting to invite people, because it wasn't open to the public. It was just like open to family and friends, and then we reserved like a handful of seats for those family and friends to maybe invite someone that they know personally. Yeah. And anybody that asked, what we were having. I was like, I don't know, gumbo and shit. So that became the name of that menu.
I was in the building. I got the call from Sincere because I lived in those apartments that are connected to Inez. And so I got the call and was like, oh, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I was like,
and it wasn't just that one. You were at a
yeah. And so I was like, I live around the corner. I don't have any excuses. I gotta show up, show love. So what about from touring in hip hop to y'all being signed, Blue Scholars being signed to the People and doing the Kickstarter campaign, to independent labels and creating your own label? What did you take away from being a hip hop artist? How did that inspire or affect or what you do now and what you did with food and shit, and how that transpired?
So many levels that are all interconnected. One definitely being the business aspect of, you do something first and foremost because you love it, regardless of whether it'll make you money or not. But then you also got to be practical with your time, support yourself in whatever way, and realistic while still having goals. So having gone through that process with the music, because it was very much a pipe dream early on, and there was no plan. It was not like, all right, I'm gonna start, I'm gonna get better, I'm gonna work at my craft, I'm gonna network, I'm gonna put out a demo, I'm gonna build towards this career. That wasn't there. It was just did it because you love it for a long time. When opportunities arise, take advantage of them, develop relationships. But even then, it wasn't networking. It was really like just finding like-minded people along the way that you look back 5 years later and you're like, oh, I was networking the whole time.
Absolutely.
Just by being part of the scene.
Absolutely.
And participating. So and I wanted to keep it organic too, because I having gone through that process, there was definitely early on some tendencies to, when we decided to actually do it monthly, to get ahead of ourselves, like, all right, we have opportunity, especially with the platform I had as an artist, to blow it up. And I actually did the opposite of what was going on. So Blue Scholars was still, even though we were on hiatus from touring, we're still doing spot dates and still very much active in our community and in the scene. And I was starting to do things with Bamboo as the bar. So I was letting that be like my visible musician thing. Like the first 3, 4, or 5 Food and Shit pop-ups, there was no press release, there was no Instagram or Facebook or Twitter account for the project. It was very much like a word-of-mouth neighborhood thing. If you weren't from Beacon Hill and you were at one of the first Food and Shit pop-ups, like it's you win. Like you did some, you must have known somebody, you did some homework, whatever, you were well connected. And then also I think I had a little thing where I wanted to grow with the folks that were part of it early on. That's what I took from the path that I had with Blue Scholars was, we didn't incubate and like refine our whole thing before putting out our first album. We were very much like on this super amateur tip, independent amateur, just whatever. Like we do what we love, and we definitely have our own standards of quality. Right. But we also know we are not resourced, we are not signed, we don't have capital. We're just gonna work with what we got. And the first album that was made mostly in the Saba's bedroom or the library.
Shout out to the library studio.
On a $1,000 credit card budget, we just made it happen. And so I think I wanted to approach this endeavor with the pop-up restaurant similarly, where I could blast it out, and we could be doing numbers just based off of like, hey, do you like my music? Come eat my food too. And I was just like, nah, let me just like let the music breathe, let the food thing, like it's more of a let it be a community thing that I know will build. And I know people who are super paying attention, because I'm definitely posting a lot of food stuff on my personal account. If you're really that in the know, then you'll come through. which it did as it's like I think word slowly got out. But if anything I learned is scale. If you want to scale up on a healthy level, you don't
jump out the window.
Yeah, you don't. You don't overextend yourself.
Yeah.
You do it at the pace that you can keep up with. And so we did that early on with Food and Shit, and then when it expanded to the opportunity to do Hood Famous Bakeshop, that was very much it might have seemed like it just happened overnight from the outside looking in, but no, this came on the heels of
inspired by Crack and Kanji too, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Shout to Crack and Kanji.
Yeah.
Early on, that whole team was they started not like around the same time, like I want to say just a few months before we did our first one in 2013, but in the same year. And after we did our first one, and family and friends was like, y'all gonna do another one, right? And Ernie at E9 was like, yeah, anytime you want. And we're like, oh, okay, well, let us not just say yes. Let's ask people who actually do this kind of stuff. So
Chef Tarek.
Yep. So that's within the first couple months of Food and Shit, we made sure we're like, yo, these Crack and Kanji folks who we actually had a connection with just through the community, and then also Chef Garrett had won the Adobo Fest. That we held in conjunction with Station Coffee Shop.
Shout out to the
block
station.
party.
Yes,
in August 2013. So this was all happening like within months of each other.
Wow.
And then shortly after we met T over here.
Nice.
When he was starting to do
City.
stuff over there. Yeah. When he was, I think he had just went to the brunch format around the same time too. He had already been doing the DJ and a Cook late night pop-up, which I believe was the first one that ever popped up on my radar as even with the term pop-up restaurant.
Absolutely.
I think when Sabo was living out in New York, I knew that there was things going on in New York like in the early 2010s. At the time, I think I saw some stuff going on in other cities, but as far as Seattle goes, like Chef Tarek Abdullah, I believe, is the
pop-up guy.
Is the pop-up, the triple OG of Seattle's pop-up culture, which has exploded since, and that we're very grateful for.
How did the ube cheesecake come along?
Okay. So
if you liked what you heard, be sure to donate so we can keep going. We are on SoundCloud, iTunes, and YouTube, so be sure to subscribe, rate, and comment. You have no idea how much it helps. We also want to know what you think. You can hit us up on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and you can even use the hashtag #NoBlueprint. And if you're really down with the movement, you can join our Patreon account and become a patron, where you'll get exclusive content and limited edition merchandise. No Blueprint is powered by Ambassador Stories. We share stories of the people, places, and spaces that bring soul to our communities. No Blueprint is recorded at Ambassador Stories Studios and co-produced with me, Maya Aina. Hear more episodes of No Blueprint and get official No Blueprint merchandise at noblueprintpodcast.com.